We had started discussing about Namakarana Samskara. So the need for Namakarana Samskara I was discussing about. The first need is to segregate. That's called as Vyavartana. Vyavartana is to segregate. This and that, if I say, this is different, that is different. So to differentiate and to segregate, the first requirement is Vyavartana. Namakarana is very much essential, whether you call it by that name or not, whether it's a person, whether it's an animal, whether it is a thing. Namakarana and giving some name for it is essential and inevitable. We cannot avoid it. And we cannot transact without that also. So the first thing is, the first purpose or need for Namakarana is Vyavartana, to differentiate, to segregate. The next one I was telling, it was Nirdeshana. Nirdeshana is to directly specify and direct it. Directly. So I want that only. That is general. That book named like this. That naming is what is I am calling it as this christening or Namakarana. So when we get to the required thing or required person or required subject straight. So that we need. So it needs its own name. It needs its own christening. It's also essential. So that is called as Nirdeshana. Nirdeshana is to directly get it. There is no ambiguity. When you say get a book, it's ambiguous. It may be a printed book, it may be a notebook, it may be some other book. There are several types of books. Toward ambiguity, we want to specifically address that thing or that person. For that, it needs a unique name. Now, I was also telling that in the present day, factories and manufacturing units and offices, they give some employee number. For things, they give part number. So part number and employee number, whatever they give, will be unique. Because when you give names, there could be repetition. There could be many Davids. There could be many Ramas. So which Rama is specifying, that again becomes ambiguous. So instead that we go for a number, and the numbers will be unique. 22506 is one Rama, 22983 is another Rama. So very clear which Rama we want. If I just use Rama, it results in ambiguity because there are many people with name Rama. There are many people with Joseph. So it's very difficult for us to make it clear. So we do it or we solve that ambiguity by giving numbers. So then our job is done. We have segregated. We are specific about which one we want. Maybe a part, maybe a thing, maybe a person. It's enough. It's enough for our transaction. But Vedas give another dimension for it. This is what I was trying to explain. Vedas give the third dimension, and that is called as Adarshana. First one is Vyavartana, second is Nirdeshana, and the third one is called as the Adarshana. And this third dimension is only for, I repeat, only for human beings. This Adarshana aspect is only for human beings because they can think, understand, and follow it in their life, practice it in their life. What is this Adarshana? Adarshana is setting up a goal to the person, setting up a goal in their life, in one's life, through the name. That we call it as Adarshana. I'll give a simple example. Say it's a boy. It's a boy. So you name him as Subhasha. So he is auspicious, well, good, noble. Bhasha, one who speaks. So Subhasha, when I name that person, I expect that person to speak good things, speak nicely. That's the meaning of the word. So I'm setting up a goal for the child. Okay, as you grow up, you should become a good orator, you should become a Nobel speaker. That's the goal for you. Subhasha. Now, every time when the parents and others call that boy by that name, they're reminded, okay, this is what we are trying to make him, this is what we want him to achieve. So to give him all such inputs and environment wherein which he'll be able to achieve it. This happens to the parents and the other elders. And what will happen to the child? Every time when it listens to its name as Subhasha, then immediately says, oh, this is my goal, so I have to grow like this. I have to develop my speech and other things like this. So, for others who call that boy, or that boy who always listens to that name, they'll be reminded of their goal. For example, Subhasha. If it's a girl, another example, Suhasini. Suhasini, one who smiles smoothly and beautifully. That is Suhasini. So when everybody calls her name, oh, we want her to smile well. Now who can smile well? Only one who is clear in their heart. They're clear and pure in their heart, they can give a beautiful smile. Oh, this is what we should do for that girl to develop and achieve that Suhasini. And Suhasini, whenever she listens to that word, she also feels, yes, this is what I have to achieve in my life. Just two examples like that. It could be anything. It could be anything. Say I call the person Medhavin. Medha is that intellect. Whenever we call that time, whenever that boy listens to that word Medhavin, both understand that that is the goal for that boy in the life and has to become very intelligent. Medhavi, one who is capable of analyzing, understanding things deeply, is a Medhavi. So every time we utter the name, every time that boy listens to that name, immediately they are reminded of that goal. Inama. Immediately they are reminded of their goal, and if that is their goal and the path they have to achieve, yes, a lot of things will be done. Though this Vyavartana Nirdesha is possible with number, that number is not capable of setting up a goal for the life. We also have citizenship number. That number will not give me any ideal, will not give me any goal. But if I give a different name, yes. Vishwapriya, another name. Just I'm giving few examples. Vishwapriya. One who is liked by all. One is loved by all. So the person whose name is Vishwapriya has to develop in such a way that her talk, thoughts and actions will be in such a way that it will be liked by all. That's the goal. So you can add any number of names for this. Any number. But every name that you give will give a goal, will give an ideal to achieve for the child. So it adds another dimension to the naming. It's not just segregating, it's not just directing, plus it is also gives an ideal, a goal for the life. That is the additional dimension what the Vedas speak about. So Vyavartana, Nirdeshana, job is done, but another third and important dimension is given, which frames the very life of the child. The third dimension called as Adarshana. So as far as human beings are concerned, Adarshana is more stressed upon, emphasized upon, because it frames the very life of the child. Maybe at the time of christening, at the time of naming ceremony, the child may not understand what it means, but parents are very clear why they are naming this, what goal they have set up for the child, and in future, as the child grows up, the child will be intimate. You see, this is the name what I got, this is the name, this is the meaning of this is your goal, this you have to achieve. So the third dimension is added in naming ceremony as per the Vedas. Vyavartana, Nirdeshana, Adarshana. Adarshana is the third dimension. It's additional, extra for human beings and human beings only. So this is the purpose of naming. And the third dimension is important as far as the human beings are concerned. So that is why we call it as a samskara. Naming we have converted into not a mechanical work of identifying a person or thing. Our idea is to give a third dimension and make this namakarana more useful and more purposeful. During this Namakarana Samskara, there is another, what do you call it, codification. You can call it as a codification. That is, according to astronomy, of course, it is localized. What fits here may not fit you there, because your time zone is different, my time zone is different, and how we look at the sky is different from your angle and from my angle. Okay, it's localized. So for everything, we have a system of calculating time. Say that is like 1 year, which is divided into 12 rashis, not months. Months is this Western concept of it. But in the Indian concept, which is applicable everywhere. Indian, I say it is Indian by origin. It is applicable everywhere. So you got 12 rashis. And out of these rashis, we have got each D is divided into 4 parts. Pada, it's called as so many things are there. So in this framework of these rashis and other things, at what time the child was born is calculated. So it is at that point of time, how the sky was, how was the constellation and the positions of the earth related to those constellations, so many things they work out. So they understand it in 2 ways. One is the tithi. Tithi is the day. When is the day? That's one. Another one is nakshatra. Tithi, nakshatra. Nakshatra is the position in the constellation. What's the position of the earth and what stars were visible. So when we freeze that point, when the child was born, we get a picture of the sky, which is with reference to Tithi, which refers to Nakshatra, which refers to the stars, the position of it when we freeze it, and another one is the day. So identify that day and star is astronomical. I'm not speaking of any astrology thing here. That I make it very clear. So it is another way of understanding the date of birth of the child. I just work back. If I just work back, in this Tithi, in this Nakshatra, the child was born, the date of birth is very clear. As now we have the day, the month, and the year. 20th October 2019. So I fixed the date of birth. So in terms of the number of the year, the month, and the day. In the same way here, we do it with reference to Tithi and Nakshatra. Tithi is the day and Nakshatra is the freezed picture of the stars in the sky. So I got the calculations for that. As we have for this 20th October 2019. In the same way, we do have another system. So in that system, now here I want to share a few of my observations and thoughts. So I got a calendar system, say it refers to Vedic Jyotisha. Here Jyotisha means mathematics and astronomy. And we have got other methods. Say the new year starts from 1st January. Whereas here in the Hindu astronomy calculations, it starts from Yugadi. You are familiar with Yugadi, New Year Day. So it comes somewhere by the end of March or beginning of April. So that is Yugadi. From there we start counting the year. Earlier days, even in Western society, they used to calculate New Year from April 1st. You have to calculate the New Year from April 1st. You know the accounting period is that. April 1st to March 31st. That's the accounting year. So though it's called as accounting year, that was the regular thing. Then the history says that once Caesar or his descendants, they said no, the New Year will start from January 1st. It's an order. It's an order. So everybody started doing it from January 1st because it's a royal order. Because the royal order, what logic was there behind it is not known. There's no logic at all. Just it's a royal order. We have to start the New Year from 1st. Okay, we do it. So that method came into Gregorian calendar. We call it Gregorian calendar. So somehow it started from 1st of January. Yes, it went on. But many people, they still followed that method of starting a New Year from April 1st. They did not follow the royal order and they did as usual. They were doing it from earlier days and they started New Year from April 1st. Now these people who changed and followed this New Year from 1st January, then they all started mocking at them. That's those who started New Year from April. So they started, oh, you start from April, you are a fool. The New Year starts from January 1st. So that is how the story goes, that the April Fool concept has come. Okay. Now the major difference between the two is, for the almanac what we are speaking of, that is the New Year starts from March end or April 1st and onwards. There is a perfect logic in that. That logic is the change in the nature. So this change in the nature, speaking of a little above and below the equator, not everywhere, not everywhere. Most of the countries and people inhabit around this equator, It's an imaginary at the center of the earth. So those who live there, for them mainly, others will have to make certain changes. For them, they find all the seasons, and the seasons are divided into 6. That's what Indian Jyotisha speaks of. So it's sort of Vasanta Rutu, then it is Grishma Rutu, Varsha Rutu, Sharad Rutu, and then Hema Rutu, Shishir Rutu. So these are the 6 they have got. So here this Vasanta Rutu is visible. I stress on the word visible. This Vasanta Rutu is visible in the environment. That is, all the old leaves they fall off and new leaves start coming. That's Vasanta Rutu. Vasanta, spring. So new leaves start coming. Whenever new leaves come, bloom, then we call it as a new year. So our concept of New Year from March end or April 1st matches with freshness in the environment. New leaves and flowers coming in the Vasanta Rutu, spring. So I need not have any calendar or any such thing to decide my New Year. Whenever there is freshness in the environment, that's my New Year. Whereas for January 1st, we don't have such indication around us. It's just snowfall and snowfall. Yesterday is also snowfall, today is also snowfall, day after tomorrow is also snowfall. So I need a calendar where I have to calculate and say this is January 1st. If calendar is gone, I can't identify the beginning of the New Year. Whereas even if that calendar is not there, whatever you find, the changes in the environment, that itself will indicate this is the beginning of the New Year. Not only that, New Year. In astronomy, Vedic astronomy, they speak of 7 measures to calculate time. Sapta, 7 measures. Of course, they are converted in Puranas as sun riding a chariot with 7 horses, so many things. Okay, I'm not interested in that. But the time is calculated with reference to 7 parameters. Day, night. After day and night, it goes to fortnight. Fortnight. Week is not there. Because week is not very scientific. Of course, we use it, that's a different issue. But without a calendar, I cannot say whether it is Monday or Tuesday or Friday, Sunday. But if you call it a fortnight, it's very much visible in the sky. It depends upon the phases of moon. Phases of moon. If it is fully visible, then we say it is a full moon. If it is fully dark, we call it as a new moon. From there, we are able to see the moon phase by phase, step by step. So this calendar, what I am speaking of, it is spread in the sky and need not have separate calendar and something. Whereas the present day calculation, what we are doing, we are dependent on calendar, and the calendar is lost, our days are also lost. That's the problem. So week is not there. After day and night, which is visible, then we go to fortnight, paksha. That is paksha. Then 2 pakshas, one full moon day and one new moon day, both put together is called as one masa, month. And 2 months is called as one rutu. Rutu, seasons. Rutu is seasons. So first 2 months is Vasanta Rutu, the next 2 months is Grishma Rutu, the next 2 months is Varsha Rutu, like that. 6 into 2, 12 months. Rutu. Then 3 Rutus put together is called as Ayana. Ayana. Dakshinayana and Uttarayana. That is, once again, with reference to the equator, what I was referring to, the sun rises straight to equator twice in a year. One we call it as Makara Sankranti, another time we call it as Karkataka Sankranti. So sun rises exactly to the equator. Now after it appears, it's not the sun rises, it's the movement of the earth that we know very clearly. With reference to earth, I am telling. So once the sun rises straight to the equator, the point of sunrise starts moving to the north. So this we call it Uttarayana. And again it comes back and reaches the equator. Then it starts going towards south, and that we call it Dakshinayana. So the point where the sun rises with reference to earth keeps on moving from one point to north, coming back, and again to south and coming back. This is what is called as Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. Visible. So that is the next one. Then last one, Samvatsara. Dakshinayana plus Uttarayana. 6 months plus 6 months is called as 1 year. That's called as Samvatsara. So, day, night, fortnight, month. Then we have got Rutu, Ayana, then Samvatsara. These are the 7 parameters what we have got. And the calculation of time is based on these 7 parameters. That is the system what we follow here. Okay. If there are dictators, they dictate their own terms. So there is no logic in that. So now the year starts with January 1st and ends with 31st. But accounting period still continues with April 1st to 31st March. That's the accounting period. That is more logical. Accounting period is more logical because it moves with the seasonal changes, which is visible. Okay. So the date of birth of the child is fixed by using mainly 2 things. One is the tithi, another one is the nakshatra. Based on that, it's decided. So at the time of Namakarana, we recite it loudly, so the date of birth of the child will be known to everyone, and even to the child and to the parents. So when did you born? I was born in such a year. So that year is known. That is why I got a cycle of 60 years. 60 years. The environmental conditions repeat itself in a cycle of 60 years. That they have found out by statistical calculations of the thing. So I got a cycle of 60 years. And after 60 years, we come back to the first year, second year. Prabhava, Vibhava, etc. we have got. So once the cycle is over, the new cycle starts. So in such and such an year, out of these 60, such and such a, next one is Ayana. And then under that Ayana and on this Ritu, and under that Ritu it is that month, Masa. Thus I am working back. Masa, then this fortnight. So fortnights they are called as Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. Shukla Paksha is one where the moon grows and it becomes a full moon day. It ends up in full moon day. And Krishna Paksha where it diminishes and finally we end up in a full moon day. So that's Krishna Paksha, Shukla Paksha. Then in that, Paksha is a fortnight. Under that we have got Prathama, Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chauti, Panchami, etc. Which day. And on that particular day, what was the position of the stars? That's Nakshatra. So we calculate this day or night, whatever it is, and at that point of time, what is the position of the stars? So it exactly fixes the time when the child was born. So it's just a question of date of birth. And here, all other things are okay. The specific thing for the child is the Tithi and the Nakshatra. So that they do it. So they announce in terms of Tithi and Nakshatra when the child was born, and they codify it sometimes. They codify it. That's on a particular day. Then they say, for example, so if it is Ekadashi means the 11th day of the fortnight. On the 11th day of the fortnight, if the child is born, it is codified as Rudrebhyaha Swaha. Rudra. Then we have got another thing, for example, Tritiya. Tritiya means the third day of the fortnight. On that day, we call it as Vishnave Swaha. It's codified as Vishnu. When Vishnu is there, it means it was a Tritiya. When you say Tritiya, it is Vishnu. So we refer to the different names of the same God. So I have to be very clear here. Devata we speak of. Devata is used in many senses. But in the present day Puranic way, they say that there are a multitude of gods and there are so many names for gods. They go up to 3 crore and not gods. But Vedas are very clear, God is one, and any name that we use for God, it is the same God. Maybe we are looking at from a different angle. So God has got different qualities, different signs, different capacities. So looking at one angle, we call the God as maybe Vishnu, maybe Varuna, maybe Rudra, something like that. But whatever name we use for the God, it's all for one single God. So it's very clear. So we take one of them to codify what is Tritiya is. You can remember it as Tritiya or you can remember it as Vishnu. So Vishnu and Tritiya, they get together. It's codification. So you remember Vishnu, fine. You remember Tritiya, fine. So they are codified. At the same time, we have got the Nakshatras. So for this, same codification used for Nakshatra. For example, there are nakshatras have been taken as 27 nakshatras. 27 nakshatras. Each are distributed into 12 rashis. 12 rashis. So for each rashi you get 4 plus 1. Each has got 4 padas. So there, the particular nakshatra is identified with a particular devata again. Pushyaya Swaha. That's for the say one nakshatra is there. Pushya nakshatra. So it is referred to Brahaspatiye Swaha. So each nakshatra is associated with one particular name of the god. It is not gods, it should be very clear. It is one god with different names. So the names are associated with the nakshatra. Similarly, we have got one nakshatra, Swati nakshatra. It is Vayave Swaha, Vayu. Swati is associated with Vayu. I'll give a list of that. So that is done. So it is remembering the date of birth in the Indian way. Of course, then we go to the rituals. So the main thing in this Namakarana Samskara is, number one, christening, naming is very much essential. So naming has got two purposes mainly, and the third dimension is added here. Avartana, Nirdeshana, Adarshana is added for human beings. That's number one. Then we speak of the date of birth in terms of Tithi and Nakshatra, and they have been codified also. So you can remember that way, or you can remember this way. Okay. Now we are going to the actual ritual, what we are going to do. Namakarana Samskara. So certain general things I have already spoken of. The same things you have to repeat here. So number one is Rutvik Varana. Rutvik Varana. That is to choose the Purohit who performs this whole ritual. He is the leader. He leads us. He guides us. Purohita, one is kept in front. One is chosen as the leader. So he chooses the Purohita. Then Achamana. All this Achamana, all this Rutvik Varana, all these things I have told earlier. But just remember them and repeat them here. Achamana. Then Ishvara, Stuti, Prarthana, Upasana. Swasti Vachana, Shanti Karana. Swasti Vachana, Shanti Karana. Then invoking the fire on the altar, Agniyadhana. Invoking the fire on the altar, that's for performing the Havan. From there, we come up to the basic mantras after we invoke the fire on the altar. Then Jalasechana. That is pouring little water on all the four sides of the altar. Jalasechana. Then we have got 4 offerings. 4 offerings. That is starting from Agni Swaha to Indraya Swaha. Agni Swaha, Somaya Swaha, Prajapatiye Swaha, Indraya Swaha. 4 ahutis. Then you go for Vyahruti Ahutiya. Vyahruti Ahutis. Bhuhu Bhuvaha Swaha, Bhurbhuva Swaha. 4. Bhuhu separately, Bhuva separately, Swaha separately, then all the 3 put together. Bhurbhuva Swaha. So all these things I have told earlier. So I have to just copy it here, copy paste. Then we have got Ashta Ajyahuti. Ashta is 8. Ajyahuti, Ajya is that ghee or clarified butter. So it is 8 mantras, we do it. So doing it and explaining it from Rutvik Varna to here, it takes nearly 45 minutes. 45 minutes approximately. Then we come to the specific mantra of the Namakarana Samskara. That is, till this 8 ahuti of the ghee or the clarified butter. So it is the parents who sit and do it. Now the child is brought in. That should not be there while performing this yajna earlier, but now we bring it. It's a small child. So we just allow it to rest, and wherever its presence is required, we call it onto the dais. So here, next mantra, Om Prajapataye Swaha. When the child is brought into the altar, yes, it rests on the lap of the mother or father, and the Havan is continued. Prajapataye Swaha. Praja is we souls, Pati is the protector. The protector of we souls is that God only. He is also called as Prajapati. So Prajapataye Swaha. We give this offering and feel that we are secured by that God. It's a positive note. Then, I was telling about announcing the date and nakshatra, the tithi and the nakshatra. So that one is done here. I'll just give one example and then give a list of it. Om Pratipade Swaha. Om Pratipade Swaha. Hey Bhrugo. Bhrugo, Nimsha Magu Nodkola. Om Pratipade Swaha. Pratipat is the first day of the fortnight. Pratipade Swaha. And the code is Om Brahmane Swaha. Pratipat is codified into Brahma. Pratipade Swaha, Brahmane Swaha. That is Tithi. Tithi is the day. Then, the first nakshatra, Ashwinyai Swaha. Om Ashwinyai Swaha. And that is codified as Ashwibhyam Swaha. Om Ashwibhyam Swaha. Now this code is given in Gobhila Grihya Sutra. Gobhila Grihya Sutra. So in these two are pronounced. That is Pratipat Brahmane Swaha and Ashwinyai Ashwibhyam Swaha. So the child is born on Pratipat and Nakshatra Ashwini. That's what it means. One is the day, that's Pratipat, the first day of the fortnight. Then Nakshatra is Ashwini Nakshatra. And the god there is Ashwibhyam. Now I will give a list of all the 15 days, starting from Pratipat. So whichever is the day, on that day we pronounce only that. The list is ready. So if it's on Dashami, what is there for Dashami? Only that we pronounce and say Swaha. So it's announced on such and such a day, under such and such a nakshatra, the child was born. With that, the date of birth of the child is fixed. Now, the list. Om Pratipade Swaha. Om Pratipade Swaha. Equal to, thus you can put an arrow and put the code. Om Brahmane. Om Brahmane Swaha. That's number one. Om Pratipade Swaha. Om Brahmane Swaha. That's the first day of the fortnight. Second one. Dvitiyayai Swaha. Om Dvitiyayai Swaha. Arrow. Om Swashtre Swaha. Swashtre. Sha is Murdhanya. Swashtre Swaha. That's second day. Third day, Om Tritiyayai Swaha. Om Tritiyayai Swaha. Arrow. Om Vishnave Swaha. Om Vishnave Swaha. The third day. Om Chaturthe Swaha. Om Chaturthye Swaha. Arrow. Om Yamaya Swaha. Om Yamaya Swaha. That's the fourth day. Om Panchamyai Swaha. Next one. Om Panchamyai Swaha. Om Panchamyai Swaha. Arrow. Om Somaya Swaha. Om Somayai Swaha. That's the fifth one. Sixth day. Om Shashti Swaha. Sha is Murdhanya. Om Shashti Swaha. Om Kumaraya Swaha. Om Kumaraya Swaha. Next one. Om Saptamyai Swaha. Om Saptamyai Swaha. Arrow. Om Munibhyaha Swaha. Om Munibhyaha Swaha. Tell it is the seventh day. Om Ashtamyai Swaha. Om Ashtamyai Swaha. Arrow. Om Vasubhyaha Swaha. Vasubhyaha Swaha. Om Navamyai Swaha. That's the ninth day. Om Navamyai Swaha. Om Shivaya Swaha. Om Shivaya Swaha. Om Shivaya Swaha. Om Dashamyai Swaha. Om Dashamyai Swaha. Arrow. Om Dharmaya Swaha. Om Dharmaya Swaha. Om Ekadashyai Swaha. Ekadashyai Swaha. Arrow. Om Rudrebhyaha Swaha. Om Rudrebhyaha Swaha. Eleventh day. Om Dwadashyai Swaha. Dwadashyai Swaha. Arrow. Om Vayave Swaha. Om Vayave Swaha. Om Trayodashyai Swaha. Om Trayodashyai Swaha. Arrow. Om Kamaya Swaha. Kamaya Swaha. Om Chaturdashyai Swaha. Om Chaturdashyai Swaha. Arrow. Om Anantaya Swaha. That's the 14th day. Om Anantaya Swaha. Next one. Om Purnamasya Swaha. Om Purnamasya Swaha. That's Purnima. That's a full moon day. Purnamasya Swaha. Om Vishwe Devebhya Swaha. Om Vishwe Devebhya Swaha. Om Amavasya Swaha. It will be Purnima or Amavasya, one of them. Om Amavasya Swaha. Arrow. Om Pitrubhyaha Swaha. Om Pitrubhyaha Swaha. So these are the codes for 14 days and maybe a full moon day or a new moon day. And the codes are also given. And the first line is clear, 1, 2, 3, 4, Pratyapad, Dvitiya, Tritiya. The codification is done. So what are the meanings of those 16? They call it as Devata or the codification. That meaning I will, because it takes little time, I'll give it in the next class. And this list of the 27 nakshatras and their codes also, I'll explain in the next class. So keeping that as pending, we'll continue. With that we do that. That is Tithi and Nakshatra. Tithi and Nakshatra Swaha. That's what we do it. Then we go for Shishtakritahuti. Shishtakritahuti. That also I have given. Edasya Karmo Tiricham. Earlier I have given it. It's from Grihya Sutras. Then again, Vyahrati mantra, which I told just now. Bhuhu Bhuha Swaha, Bhurbhuva Swaha. 4 offerings. Then comes 2 mantras which are specific for this Namakarna Samskara. The first one is Yajurveda 7.29. Yajurveda 7.29, which is very much specific for this Namakarna Samskara. Then another one, it is from Mantra Brahmana. One is from Yajurveda, one is from Mantra Brahmana. Whatever we have in the Mantra Brahmana is very much based on what we see in this Yajurveda mantra, 7.29. On that basis, that Mantra Brahmana adds one more mantra. So these 2 mantras and that explanation, it needs again a detailed, it may need one full period for us. So I'll stop it here. And today is Wednesday. For me, Thursday. Friday is okay. Friday is okay. That's Thursday night for you. So I'll continue. That is, we have got 2 things. That's one for the meanings of the Tithi codes, then Nakshatra codes, then these 2 mantras. So one by one we'll take it up. This mantra will cover it, and that codification will take at the end. That's no problem. You know, the one list I have given, another list I will give you and explain it. So the basic mantras, the core of Namakarna Samskara is in these 2 mantras. One from Yajurveda, from Mantra Brahmana. That we'll discuss in the next class. Okay. Thank you very much.